You are watching Rarely Reserved, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. I am Charles, also known as Omnus, and because Sin is on vacation just a little bit longer, bear with me, I'm missing her as well. But to keep me in the joyous spirit of the new year, we have the legend, Chris, aka Pure. Welcome back to podcasting with me, dude.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, we're obviously, Sin is really just gone for 2 weeks, but because of some of the restructuring of like when I'm dropping each show and like saving time for video editing, I was like, I want something on each day of the week. And I think I decided that I wanted Rarely Reserved to drop on Mondays. And so with that in mind, I was like, well, I could kind of skip a week, or I could just record one more show and I get to hang out more with my favorite people. And so that ended up being the decision. So we got one more. And then honestly, the day after this drops, Sin and I will be recording the next episode. So, but I've got Pure, and Pure gets to pick the puck. And in honor of your puck, I don't have Sin on the show, but this will be the first time that her Christmas present to me is on camera, which is a puck. Which is a bounty puck.
It is. It's so cool. It's so cool.
Which I thought was super funny. And after she got it for me and I opened it up and I was like, man, this is awesome. I love this thing. This is so cool. I realized we were talking about potential art for the show. And I asked her if she could draw something that would be like a bounty puck that has like the general glow. And then I could try to like blend pictures into it if we wanted to do artwork as we were going along. And one of the pictures that I downloaded as reference, I don't know if I sent it to her, but one of the pictures I downloaded was the picture of this puck. So I noticed it on my phone a few days later because I was searching for something. And I was like, wait a second, that looks familiar. So
you're already on the same wavelength. That's great.
Yeah, bounty pocket. But Pure, what is the purest bounty that you could possibly bring to Rarely Reserved?
Well, here's what I've got. It's Darth Bane for the puck today.
Okay. And why is it Darth Bane? Why Darth Bane is the purest of all pucks?
I've kind of been the last 2 months about Thanksgiving, I started going down this rabbit hole of books, and I know very little about the greater Star Wars lore, the Legends lore, like any of that. I don't know a whole lot about it. So I started it started with just reading an Acolyte book that just came out not that long ago. It was like the prequel for Jecki and Yord, and I was like, oh, these characters are so cool. And that just led me down the suggestions. Like there's a little suggestions thing under Audible where it'll be like, well, here's some other books you might listen to. And so I was like, oh, a Revan book, let's check that out, which led me to a Darth Bane book because it was by the same author. And now I'm 2 out of 3 books into this Darth Bane series. And I'm like, this guy is super cool. And I was having this conversation like 3 days ago with Sarah Cruel. And I said, man, it's just a bummer that like, I'd love to see this guy in Star Wars Shatterpoint, but he's Legends. And Sarah Cruel said, actually, he's in this episode of Clone Wars.
I believe, so I know who Darth Bane is. And I considered going and hitting a wiki for Darth Bane because you told me what we were going to cover. I decided against it. I don't like it when something sounds like someone's just reading off of the wiki page, right? You could tell, and didn't want to do it. So I'm just going with like my Darth Bane knowledge in general. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is that Darth Bane is the guy who created the rule of 2. And I believe that is still canon. That at some point, if you're not familiar with the Sith background, but there was a point like Sith were just always fighting amongst each other, trying to gain power. And the way that you would gain power was always like challenging the most powerful Sith. And so there was so much infighting. And Darth Bane was the guy who thought, this is not helping. This is not helping the Sith Empire. This is not helping the Sith become the ultimate power. And so he created the rule of 2, that there would just be 2. There would be a master and there would be an apprentice. So the master was always training another apprentice. And as soon as an apprentice kills their master, they take on another apprentice, or if, the apprentice dies fighting Jedi, you take on a new apprentice. And so that's what's epic about it. So I feel like he could still hit like normal Star Wars canon at some point, because I believe that's still the case, that he is the guy who did that.
Yeah. Yeah, in the clip that Sarah Cruel sent me of the Clone Wars, Yoda sees this apparition of this Force ghost of Darth Bane, and Darth Bane says exactly that. He's like, "You're coming to me for power, right? I created the rule of two." And now the books that I'm reading are legends, but there's obviously some canon, or at least some, like you said, at least we know he created the rule of two. In these old books that I'm reading, he kind of was learning from like Darth Revan eons apart, just from like holocrons and stuff, which is really cool. So he is almost this apprentice of a long gone Sith. And in his time, in Darth Bane's time, nobody uses the title of Darth. Just they're all Sith lords. And he's like, he asked about it for his masters. How come nobody does this? And his master at the time basically told him, that's kind of like saying, I'm the king. I'm the guy, and it will have all of the other Sith target you and challenge you. And so it just kind of got to a point in the book where he basically is in this council of Sith, and he throws down the gauntlet, and he says, I'm Darth Bane. I'm leaving. None of you can stop me because none of you are strong enough. And I was like, this guy is awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Bane fan. I will say, I don't remember if I knew who he was before I was playing the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars minis game, because he was in that game. He came out in it relatively early on, maybe 5-6 sets in, but he was like the most expensive character in the game. I think through the vast majority of the game, he was the highest point character in the game. And he was very good at like the lower point levels. He was one of the melee characters who was actually good. And so when you would play the smaller threat levels, you're like, oh man, how do you handle Bane?
Yeah.
But
I love that for him.
Yeah, so I definitely remember him playing, and like Bane was always this thing like, oh, can Bane work in this list? And yeah, so I would definitely be down for Bane to hit at some point, but my suspicion is for us to get Bane, he needs to show up in something else Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's not crazy. Especially, like we've got the Ahsoka show right around the corner, right? They've already done World Between Worlds stuff in there. Ahsoka could meet Bane in the World Between Worlds.
Oh my goodness. I hate you for saying that right now, because that's immediately going on the wish list.
Wouldn't be crazy. I think it would be a little hard to do that, because I think if they were going to do Bane, they probably want to do Bane in a medium to heavy way. And I think it was the problem that Marvel had with Thanos, right? They introduced Thanos at the end of one movie. I forget which one it was. Guardians, I think. You saw Thanos for the first time after the end of the Guardians. And then they had to change the way that Thanos looked before doing like the actual Thanos movies. And I think they would want to be careful not to introduce Bane too early, because you would probably want an actor who could stick around for a while and do things, who could be on Sith holocrons. They kind of want a James Earl Jones, right? Someone who could become a legendary part of Star Wars, and you could have Sith interacting with holocrons of Bane throughout decades of Star Wars future,
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know how deep you've been going in all the newer Star Wars stuff coming out. There's this Lego Star Wars thing that came out fairly recently, and Revan shows up, right? But there are no voice lines for Revan. And in that moment, I had this thought of, I wonder if they're not putting a voice to him because, like maybe down the road they want to do a Revan and they don't want to commit a voice to that person just yet.
I mean, a lot of animated stuff has different voices anyway, but I think that's a reasonable that once you decide you're going to do something iconic, that you want to leave room, that you don't create the words are escaping me a little bit, but you don't want to create this kind of pre-existing expectation of what it's going to be like, because then you can miss it. But when there's no context really for what Bane is like on the screen, you have a lot more leeway to play around with that. Right? Think about how much dislike there is for the look of Thrawn in the Ahsoka show, because he doesn't look like the Rebels cartoon.
Yes.
Right? That's all it takes. Yes. And you can create that kind of dissension. But so Bane...
And Star Wars also is not like it embraces mystery too, and intentionally not telling you everything that they know or everything there is to know, or maybe there's just intentionally blank spots because the mystery makes it interesting.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes they wrap up the mysteries too soon, right? Like I don't know if this is 100% true, but what I had heard is that originally Leia was not going to be Luke's sister, and the fourth Star Wars movie was going to be Luke going and finding his Force-sensitive sister. But they wanted to be done making Star Wars movies for the time being, and they wanted to like wrap that, so they just had that end up being Leia. But it's always been these like under the surface area. And so, I like the idea of Bane just because he is still just this epic part of Star Wars history, kind of in the way that Mandalorian armor spawned all the Mandalorian stories. It was just the kind of armor that Boba Fett wore. And I don't think they even mentioned it in the movies. I don't know what the first mention that, Boba Fett wears Mandalorian armor, right? Whether that was Empire Strikes Back novel, where like just some writer was like, hey, he wore Mandalorian armor. And right in that song, well, what is Mandalorian armor? And
all right,
in the same way, there's 2 Sith at a time. Well, where did that come from? And then that is, somebody had to do that. So Bane,
It's funny that you say that about the Mandalorian armor, because I have no idea when it was mentioned. Some of this just goes back to I've just known it for so long that I don't remember where I learned those things.
I mean, I remember hearing about the idea of a Mandalorian like far back. I don't remember the first time that I heard it. But I played a Star Wars role-playing game as like a preteen, something in that range. And I know we definitely talked about Mandalorian armor at that time.
Not the Fantasy Flight one, right? Or
I think pre-Fantasy Flight, like very long ago.
Gotcha.
All right, I want to Google right now what was the first mention of Mandalorian armor. There is especially with all the AI and shit. The first mention of Mandalorians wasn't in the films, but in Marvel's Star Wars comic book 68 in 1983, introducing super commandos from the planet Mandalore.
Okay.
That was the first mention of Mandalorians. I was wondering, is it
going to be a book? I see.
But let's see if it's different for Mandalorian armor. I noticed how you brought a Sith topic, and I have turned it into a Mandalorian topic.
They might not be too far apart. We've got the Darksaber, which is another piece shrouded in mystery to canon that has a lot of ties with both Jedi and potentially Sith, like Maul. So.
Yeah, the first mention of Mandalorian iron is like the 1990s comics.
Huh.
I'm curious. I'm sure Aubrey or Accuser would probably be able to say, it was in this. Just one of those unwritten things that just probably or probably an actually written thing, but we just don't hear about it enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a fun puck. I'm always curious. So you were a listener of the show, so I'm just going to preemptively ask you a question. Do you find the pucks interesting? Because there's always this thing in the back of my head that worries me that people are like, come on, get to the Shatterpoint conversation.
Some of my favorite parts, look, yes, sometimes the main topic, you really want to get there, but honestly, sometimes I just enjoy the random bits in between that you just weren't expecting, and you find out that's a gem that you get to take home. I don't know. I enjoy them. I think they're a good addition. There should be something like that, and I really like that you landed on that. So
okay, yeah, I didn't intend it to be 15-minute topics initially. I was thinking like 5-minute discussions, but we just always end up with more to say because Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there are some shows out there where somehow the 5-minute topic has become a 45-minute topic, and then they get to the episode. So
yes.
Yeah.
But there's a Marvel podcast that I listen to where they do a pre-ramble before they record the show where they just talk about movies and shows and books and stuff for an hour, and then they just stick it in at the end of the episode. And I love it. Like, it ends up being my favorite part of the whole thing. So
there you go.
But all right, well, let's get to the main topic. We're going to skip over what we have been up to because this is going to be a little bit of a topic. We haven't done something purely interview focused on Readily Reserved before, but that's kind of what we're going to do here because Pure, I know you don't like me talking you up too much, but you did the most GTs in 2025 as far as we are aware. There's some people who got close to you, but you did one more than anyone else as far as we've been able to count. And I'm just curious what that journey was like because you did 2 LVOs over the course of the year and the meta changed really dramatically. You went to a bunch of different places, a bunch of different metas, and you probably just have a lot of insight. And I just want to dig into that. So what's the first GT LVO part 1, or did you have a GT before that?
I had 2 GTs before LVO. We attended, you were there for one of them. It was SoCal the year before.
Okay.
And then there was an Arizona Grand Tournament. But I can't remember if that came before or after.
But those were 2024, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yes, I was absolute pleasure to meet you at SoCal.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And I'm very happy that my Vader trophy, it's back here, survived the trip back. I wrapped that in so many hoodies and shit, trying to make sure that the Vader trophy survived. I'm actually working on trophies. I'm not going to talk too much about what we've been up to, but working on trophies right now for the LVO qualifier at Mox next month. And so working on some custom trophies for that. So that was a project for today. But so you did a couple of GTs in 2024. So you already kind of knew what to expect. Then 2025 rolls around. You pick LVO. Why LVO to start things off? Is it just because it's close? And how did you decide what you were going to play for this?
I picked LVO because it was the first grand tournament.
It's just the first
the year,
one,
as far as I knew.
Yeah,
it was the closest I could get my hands on, and so so I went to that one. Everyone told me it was going to be a big one, so I had to,
So is it mostly a lack of patience, where you're just I have to do the first one? You were itching to do the next one. Is it how much of it was gameplay and how much of it was camaraderie?
I didn't have a good feel for the community just yet. Like, there's still so many people I hadn't really met. And even a lot of the people in Arizona, I was just getting to know them. This is my first jump into real tabletop stuff. So so it was more for the game, and more for the swag. I was definitely sitting there going, all right, now how many grand tournaments do I have to go to have a playable number of the same color dice? That was
the dice are important.
They're so important. Yeah. How you got to have colorful dice to roll well. Everyone knows that.
Dice question. So, did you get a full set of brown dice?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I have many of them, but not quite enough.
My brown dice felt like they rolled like shit. Were your brown dice good? Because I feel like I got the bad brown dice set.
I think you did get the bad ones. The purple dice for me have betrayed me far more than the brown ones, and I still love them anyway. But.
I definitely have ups and downs. My purple dice, they let me know how they're feeling in the given moment.
Yeah.
So you went out to a couple at the end of 2024. You were starting to get your feel for it. And my first time going to a convention sort of experience for a miniatures game was a local one, which was kind of what helped me get over that cusp. Like, oh, there's this local one, and it was my first time just actually being in that convention setting and doing convention tournaments and seeing people who had flown in. And as soon as I walked away from that one, I thought, I cannot wait a full year to do this again. Now, I did still wait like 6 months, but you were, no, right away.
Yeah.
So what did you have any initial thoughts on just how you wanted to plan for GTs and how you wanted to approach playing in it and what your expectations were? Because we're going to get to kind of how that shifts, but I kind of want to create a starting point. Was there any like baseline thoughts that you had early on in the year?
Well, just kind of preparing for grand tournaments, especially the big ones. I have, just from my previous experiences outside of tabletop gaming, have a kind of that history of understanding, okay, if I'm going to go to an event, I'm going to go to a tournament, I need to do some research. And that for me begins with, as soon as there are names on a list like Longshanks, I begin looking at every single player that's signed up that I think is in the top
research.
X amount. Yeah, I look at every player. I will look at all of the characters, the primaries that are on their Longshanks, and I will look at this last like 5 or 6 tournaments that they've played in and see what their list construction looks like, how many times they're playing different things. And I will do that for most of like the top third of a tournament's
impressive
ratings.
I did not know that. See, I'm already enjoying this dig in. And so you were doing that right away. You were doing that before LVO 2025 first one. Okay.
Yeah, as far back as for every grand tournament, even probably smaller tournaments, I was doing that as well, just local stuff.
Was your thought, hey, I'm going to go to GTs and I'm going to try to win, or you're just, I want to come back with cool swag and I want to meet people and have good games, or you're like, I'm going to win one of these? What was the mindset?
I do want to win. I'm deeply competitive, so I will absolutely get disappointed if I don't win. However, I'm also afraid of setting the expectations too high.
Yeah.
And then, because you don't want to, like, first and foremost, the most important goal is to have fun. And, for me, at least, that should take precedence in simply getting a title. I've said about many things, if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to stop doing the thing. And you can very easily, if your goal is to win, you can very easily suddenly just not have fun. And I don't want that to happen. So I'll set a lower goal. And that goal typically is like, I want to make top 8, or top cut, or whatever that might be, or make it to the first cut of something. That's kind of the goal that I tend to set first.
That makes sense.
And I think I can achieve that. However, I was very disappointed at LVO 1 in January because I did not, in fact, make a top cut. It was an extremely competitive tournament, though. There were so many fantastic players there that there were a lot of great players that didn't make top cut. And I'm not calling myself a great player. I'm just noting that there are players that I think are far better than me that didn't make it. So
I do, when we were talking about doing this episode, there was a moment where I was wondering, wait a second, was Pure at the first LVO? Because you didn't make top cut and I was super busy and then I was like, no, I'm fairly sure I had food with Pure at LVO 1. And then I started remembering, I remember specifically being surprised that Pure didn't make top cut. And so those memories started hitting me. 2 LVOs in a year is a lot. So what would you say were kind of some of the defining moments for you? Like if you think back about your first LVO, what retained? Was it just, I didn't make top cut, the meta's tough, I got to get better? Or was there more to it than that?
At the first LVO, I really kind of got slapped in the face by a big meta threat that I was not prepared for, because locally, and there just hadn't been a ton of time.
Which threat?
Which was Kanan.
Oh, okay.
It was Kanan and Spectres, and they're so good.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time preparing for Kanan, like as much as I could, but locally in Arizona, it wasn't something that I had resources for people that would play them into me. It wasn't happening naturally. I wouldn't just play into people that were playing them. There are a lot of great players around Arizona that could play them if I asked them to, but it just hadn't happened organically.
Got it.
So I ended up going to LVO, and that was the first taste of a meta far enough away from Arizona where those big threats like Kanan really came in swinging. I spent all of my time really practicing for Iden and tuning my list to deal with Iden because I knew that was a threat and it was also a local threat for me. But the Kanan thing, I was aware of it. I played some games against it, but it not to the level that you'd really want if you're going to go in with the idea of winning something.
Total opposite for me. Plenty of Kanan games in the Pacific Northwest. Almost never played against Iden. But so post LVO, so I want to keep moving along because we've got a lot of things to hit. Did you have any thoughts after LVO, first GT of the year? Did mindset change at all? Was it just, I've got to start preparing for Kanan, or did any of your approach shift?
So I believe I was knocked out of LVO on like the 18th of January. And on the 21st, I started sending messages to some of the people in Arizona saying, we're going to practice for Adepticon. I want you, and we're going to set up dates outside of tournaments, outside of weekly play, where we're going to meet up on weekends and practice some very hardcore stuff. 3 days later, not 3 days later, like a Monday, I got home.
Who are those three? Who are your, who's the team?
Yeah, it was Matt Booker.
Yep.
It was two other locals, Nick Rader and Jake Rader.
Oh, okay, nice. So shout out to the Knights of Pure. You know,
right?
Yeah. All right. So immediately you're going into Adepticon preparation. Did you have a GT between LVO and Adepticon?
No, it was. We have a lot of tournaments, so there are a lot of locals things going on, but no big events.
And if I recall, the errata didn't drop until May, I believe. So
yes.
Adepticon, same meta. So what were your thoughts going into Adepticon about what you wanted to play and how you were preparing for that existing meta?
Yeah. Sadly, I left the droids behind. LVO was the last time that year played.
Thank God Sin is not here, because
I know
there would be hell to pay.
I know, and they were still fine. I do think they are still viable. I could have taken them to Adepticon. I just didn't.
Yeah.
And some of that is because of confidence. Like even if you think something is really good, if you have had a bad tournament, had a bad couple practice games, and you don't have confidence in yourself to pilot it, don't do it. Just run something else. You got to have a good vibe going into stuff. But I mean, I played that game versus Kenny at LVO, and he was like, I didn't believe in this list before our game, but I do now. And so I took that with me. That was good to have.
Okay.
But I did end up leaving them behind. I embraced Kanan going forward. I put in 2 months of practice with Kanan and Princess Leia. So just really to understand your opponent, to beat them, you have to understand them. Right. Yeah. So now a part of that just comes from I played it a bunch. So I did believe in that list, too. I like the characters, so I have no qualms with playing things that I think are thematically cool. So I could still do that. But at Adepticon, I really embraced the Kanan list and then brought in another list that I still love thematically, which was like Vader 1 and Inquisitors and Grand Inquisitor when nobody believed in Grand Inquisitor. I have to have a little bit of my own flair.
Yeah.
Even if we're going hard.
All right. So how did you do overall at Adepticon? Did you... Yeah, just fill us in.
Yeah. At Adepticon, I made it to Top Cut for that. So I made it to day 2.
Was it tight?
I wanted... yeah.
Was it a tight... Did you barely get in? Did you oh yeah, I went undefeated? How close was it?
There were 5 rounds, I believe. I went 4-1.
Okay.
So I was
very
almost a
respectable.
5-0. Yeah.
Who knocked you out?
Dork Esquire.
Okay.
And it was a really close game. We had a really, really great game, and I think it could have gone either way. The game ended at time where I had made a decision, drew the card, and then time was called after I drew my card, and I was like, if I just took the thing on for reserve, I just win. But I didn't know time was there, right? Yeah, so we had a very tight game. It could have been a 5-0. It was a 4-1. I think he ended up going 5-0. So there's no shame in losing to a strong opponent. Yeah.
So you make Top Cut. How long did you go in Top Cut before getting knocked out?
1 round.
1 round.
So it was the first round. I played against the first opponent I played against. I want to say his name was Danny. If you're out there and you played against me, like send me a message and say, you're wrong.
Comment on this video and be like, that was me.
Yeah.
I'm the one who crushed Pierre's dreams, and you can be Dream Crusher.
That's right. Yeah. We played against each other in the Swiss the day before. Oh, so like, yeah,
he was prepared for you. He thought he was just in the zone, going, "This is. I have to make sure that I just don't lose to my nemesis, Pierre."
That's right. I told him before the game started, because I think we knew the matchups the night before. I can't remember, but I did tell him before the game started, hey, from StarCraft, from my StarCraft days, we have this superstition that if you ever rematch versus somebody, you're going to lose if you won before. And so we went into that, and we were basically playing a mirror matchup. The first time in Swiss, we didn't play a mirror matchup. I played my Sith against his Ewoks. Yeah.
Is that because
and then the second time was a Kanan? No. No, I think I just wanted to win now that I was in Top Cut.
Okay.
and the tables, I would have played more Sith all throughout, but the tables I thought were not favorable towards the list that I had, there weren't a lot of ladders that year at Adepticon. And I was really struggling to get up and down elevation to those objectives with some of the lists that I had. The Rebels didn't have nearly as much of a problem with that.
Reasonable. Okay.
Yeah, Sorry. So I was just going to say, so we went into that mirror matchup in the Top Cut, and like I said, that was my first experience with the purple dice, and man, they were very cold to me that they didn't. I think I went through 3 out of 7. I know. Yeah. Send me a message about that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I went through 3 cards to kill his rebel commandos, and 3 out of my 7 cards attacked and did not kill them. And I was like, I think I lose. And he said, yeah, I think you do. Yeah, I threw a Kanan attack. I threw both of my rebel commandos attacking into him and Ezra attacking into them, and they were still alive after those 3 attacks. And I just looked up and said, I think I lose. And he said, yeah, that's rough.
Rebel commandos are the character that I am most likely to have wounded before they activate. They just die.
Yep.
So
I know
that's such a painful model to survive. But all right, so you take a step up, right? Even larger field, and then you make Top Cut at least. You've caved a little bit to the meta, the big boy, but also at Adepticon, I believe they announced that we are getting errata, and we're getting some idea that I believe they were kind of like, it's significant. And so we knew stuff was changing. So coming out of Adepticon, did you have thoughts, plans? Did you immediately go back to the Knights of Pure and be like, we're testing, or are you waiting to test until new errata comes out? And was there a GT that you were going to do before the next errata?
I think at that point we didn't know when it was going to be, or maybe we had some idea.
I don't think we knew. I think they were just like, it's coming. And something like that. Because I remember us wondering, like, almost all of April, like, when is it going to drop? But sometimes I have a hard time practicing really heavily when we know there's an errata on the horizon. Yeah. Right? Because I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time practicing that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fair. We did end up just getting the First Contact, like, pre-release. Some of us took home the pre-release from Adepticon for First Contact. And locally, there was like a couple of 16 or 20 person tournaments where we did First Contact only tournaments.
Nice.
So there was a lot of practice with that. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So that we were kind of putting lists through their reps with that. I kind of swapped that new Ahsoka model out for Princess Leia with Kanan, and basically had the same list. But I was like, ooh, if I have this, I've got like some firepower behind my revenge list. I like that. And put in a lot of reps also with that new Vader mini. So I was really just testing those things out.
Okay. What was your next GT then?
The next, it was Evergreen.
Okay.
So it was many months later.
So you had a big break. So that's 4 to 5 months break, basically. Yeah. So you get a lot of time in there. So you've taken some time off. Was that just because there wasn't a GT that you were interested in? Were you busy? Did you want to absorb the new errata? What kind of led to so much of a delay before the next one?
Mm-hmm. I think there was like one grand tournament, maybe two, around the July period of time.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it just didn't pan out. I don't remember if it was work kept me from going to things. I think I did handpick a couple of tournaments that I wanted to go to. I wanted to visit people. I wanted to go to Evergreen. I said, that's where Omnus is. I have to go up that way. So it was kind of like that. I said, okay, I want to go to Evergreen. I want to go to Sci-Fi. I don't know if I'm going to go to LVO again. I kind of decided I wasn't going to. Obviously, that changed.
We reeled you in.
Yeah, and Smite's local, so it's hard not to compete at a local grand tournament.
Okay. So, when did you know you were going to do Evergreen? Was it a couple months out, or was it something you were planning post Adepticon? You're like, hey, that's the next GT that I'm going to do.
As soon as we saw the list, they dropped a list for us, right, where it said, here's the grand tournaments going on, and I looked through them and planned with a couple of friends where are we going to go. Yeah. Okay. So that's when. So
you've had two very big events to start off the first half of your year. Now you're going to pack in 4 GTs in the second half of the year, almost in the last third of the year, practically. Now, was your prep evolving at all as you've prepared for 2 big conventions? Now you're going to kind of let's be honest, the Evergreen was a little bit smaller than your first 2, but there's still some strong players. Did your preparation evolve in a good or a negative way as you were getting ready for Evergreen?
I was still practicing with the boys locally, had a bunch of tournaments locally. That's never been an Arizona problem. So a lot of practice is there to be had here. But I would say, did my methods change? No, because I was still researching, who's going to go, what am I going to take? What are they going to take? I think at that point, after having 2 grand tournaments under my belt, the meta changed drastically just because of the patch was in between. The balance patch came out in May. And yeah, the seasonal differences between the metas is huge. So I had a pretty good idea based off of the things locally and the practice games, what I thought was going to be like the top dogs, the new meta threat. Yeah. We didn't really know yet. We were keeping an eye on other tournaments across the pond and in Canada. It's like, all right, well, anything that's going on, show us what's in the crystal ball for what the meta is going to be amongst just theory crafting with our own group.
Did you, as you were kind of researching all the different players, was there ever a point where you're wondering if I was going to play in it and you researched me just in case I decided to play in it? Or were you like, no, Omnus said he's running it. He's going to be running it. I don't have to worry about him.
I know that I didn't research you because 2 reasons. The first reason is I tried to research you before at SoCal and got very little information because you don't have it record stuff, right? Or very little. Yeah. And I was like, I remember thinking at that point, there must be a setting. There's no way this guy that I listen to on podcasts doesn't have any rating.
Oh no, I had turned it off because of MCP and it was still off through that. So I specifically used the setting. I think a lot of people don't know that you could turn off rating at all. And I definitely had it off. And I think after SoCal, I turned it on because I was just curious where I was at post SoCal.
I see. Well, I didn't look it up because of that factor
you just
alone.
knew, you're like, he doesn't, there's no information. I can't stalk Omnus.
Right. Yeah. And I think you did also mention it at some point. But
okay. So how you decided did I actually influence what you were going to play? Because I thought you wanted to play Riff going into this. And so I was just offering to help. But was that more of an excuse? Was this one of those like subtle things where you're like, I don't really want to play Riff, so I'm going to say that I don't have time to get it painted? Or because when I've heard you talk about this, it seemed like I peer pressured you into what you were going to play at Evergreen.
So that's not your fault.
Yeah.
This is my fault. This is because I can't stick to a thing. I'm very much so, like several others have mentioned, like Kevin has mentioned. Look, I'm going to tell you this is the plan, and the day of, that might not be what you see. And I think I should know better by now, because I've been on some interviews and said, this is what I'm going to run at this upcoming event. And then I felt bad when it wasn't actually what I played.
Yeah.
So that's not on you. You didn't peer pressure me into playing that. In fact, I messaged you at some point before then and said, hey, I want to play Riff. Can I play Riff at this event? And you, I think you went through some work to find out if that was going to be okay for us to do with Riff and Boss beforehand. We really appreciate that, by the way.
Right. I think Riff was releasing like a week beforehand. And I think there was some questions because I think some of the verbiage in the document was based on the other systems that Izzy, local Izzy, was using to run stuff. And I was like, how far out do we actually need people to report stuff? It was like, if you're going to leave it up to me, I'm like, they can report Thursday night. I want people to be able to change stuff up. And so Riff seemed fairly obvious that we were going to allow, but it was not. There is a person above me for Evergreen. And so I wanted to defer to Izzy and just kind of see how they felt. And then, but then Boss Box was a little more complicated because it was technically releasing the day of the event. And so the only way that you could get it is either you ordered it overseas, you got someone to sell it to you early, or you literally found a store that would stay open past midnight Thursday night, sell it to you at after midnight, assemble it, and be ready to go for the tournament. But you already have locked in the list.
Right. I had been practicing with proxies with Riff a whole bunch against
Cassian. God, you said the bad word. Oh, proxy.
Cassian. Oh, proxy. Oh, I'm sorry.
What did you think the bad word was?
I thought it was Cassian.
Oh, no. No, Cassian.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
Cassian's fine.
Oh, I see.
Oh.
I mean, like, if you're going to an event, I really didn't want to do, like, I don't enjoy putting out, for the same reason that you don't enjoy doing this, right? You really would like that thematic feel of playing the mini that's on the table, and I do too. But if I'm going to an event and I know that those things are going to be allowed at the event, I know someone is going to have it, and I need to practice it or with 100%. It or against it. Yeah. So I did, and since they make some of that information available to us beforehand, right? I was like, okay, well, I'm going to practice with Riff and Boss. So yeah, I had been practicing with a Republic list and with Riff Grievous into those things to see how they paired up. I ended up ordering with a local store because they had it said it's going to be here on this date, which was like another week earlier than they were supposed to. And I was like, we'll see if that stays. It didn't. They updated it. So as we got really close, it wasn't landing when we thought it was going to land. Things got delayed, and I ended up just kind of having to ditch the plan and say, okay, I'll figure something else out because I don't think my stuff is coming in time. It still hasn't shipped. I ended up going to like my local store and found some of the boxes on the shelf, not the Rift box, but the Boss box. And I wasn't sure if I was going to use that. I think Donovan was really excited and he was like, well, maybe I'll play this. And I had messaging him, hey, do you want me to bring you the box from Arizona?
Yeah.
He didn't end up taking me up on that, but I already bought it just in case because I wanted it in my hands before I even said anything to him. And then I was like, well, this is mine. Do I play this? Today is the day that I'd have to lock in my list. Do I want to commit to building it? I didn't. But I told you, hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play Riff. I don't have it. And you said something. I can't remember the exact conversation, but you were like, use mine. I got you. And in that moment, it was like, I think it was Wednesday. It was list lock day or Tuesday or something. And I said, well, I can't say no to Omnus. He's offering me to use this cool thing.
You can, by the way. For the record, you could have said no.
But I knew that you were excited to see someone play the Riff, like the Riff kit. And I had kind of been practicing it. So I was like, well, yeah, if I can play it, I'll take you up on that. It was just, I had kind of reserved myself to not do that because of a day of thinking it wasn't going to happen. And then I thought, oh no, what am I going to put together to make this work? I know I'm taking Cassian or Kanan and Ahsoka. I mean, how do I run Riff in here? Because I already have an aggro component to my list. And I don't know how it happened. I came up with it within a half hour. I said, okay, it's Mando and it's these things. We're going to jam them in like that. And it ended up being so much better than I could have possibly imagined.
I still think it stands as a good list in this meta. So trusting your gut there. In retrospect, so if I recall, you made top cut. Kenny knocked you out.
No, Scott
knocked you out. Kenny got you in Kenny stopped your undefeated record in the Swiss rounds, and so it's just the Utah guys are out for you. I don't know,
as he is wont to do. Kenny's my nemesis at this point. It's like,
but you did make top cut. In retrospect, do you regret me peer pressuring you into playing Riff, or did you still enjoy that experience?
No, I very much so enjoyed it, and I ended up thinking I was going to play Kanan most of the time, and I didn't. It was the opposite. In fact, I played Riff I think I played it every game I was allowed to. I played one game of Kanan and then played Rift the rest of the time and said, there's something here. Ooh, this is fun. Ooh, I like how this is working on the table. And this feels like it's got legs. There's something here. So no, I very much so enjoyed it and ran it as much as I possibly could.
So a couple of thoughts that I didn't realize quite until we were having this conversation. First off, how lucky are we that Evergreen happened to fall in the little gap before the Jin box came out. So we were not in the Base and Chirrut meta. Boss was out, but people didn't have any practice with him. We fell in the sweet spot. That was probably the absolute best weekend to have a Star Wars Shatterpoint GT the entire year.
I agree. It was.
Isn't that kind of nuts?
Especially getting to run Riff, it really is. Because like if you think about it, like the time where something is going to have its opportunity to shine is when it is the newest thing. And nothing else has come out. So and luckily Riff has continued to do well in places, competitively speaking. So
if your dice had been a little bit better, there was a chance that you could have taken Riff to winning that GT like fresh with nobody having any experience or practice against it. And you came up with a really good list. The luck wasn't quite with you and you faced just nutbuster opponents the whole way through. No breather for Pure the whole way. And then also had some, because there's recorded games of you not rolling particularly well. I know you don't want to blame dice, but it was all like having Riff in the meta, but before we hit the ultimate boss Cassian meta that came a little bit after. How lucky were we?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair though, about my dice, sure, there was some recording where my dice weren't going great and they were awful, but I did rewatch my game versus Kenny, and in moments I was looking at my dice rolls going, oh, that is so hot. That is a great roll. That is amazing. These Aquas are just they're not taking crap from any of these rebels.
Yeah, love that.
So
love that.
It goes both ways.
So other question for you. We got to play our first game in a casual game afterwards, and I just want to know, did you go easy on me? Because I was playing Grievous. How much did you play it down?
Okay, I didn't play easy. I played as well as I could with the list that I brought. I don't think the list I brought was very good, but it was fun, and I just wanted to have a good time. And I was like, well, hey, he loves these things. I kind of want to mess around with some of these things, and so I brought it because I just wanted to play those units.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So post Evergreen, meta's shifting a lot, right? We've definitely seen Kiadi has its place in the meta, where you realized more earlier than most people did. Riff has a place in the meta. We're starting to see the strength of Boss. Base and Chirrut is starting to work into lists. Didn't you have Smite Club or something like that only a week or two later, something like that?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks later.
Did you?
And that was kind of. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, how quickly did your mindset change in those 2 weeks? Was it, I just got to basically play the same thing? Did you learn anything from Evergreen that changed how you were going to approach Smite Club? Like, what happened?
I ended up going with a lot of Empire to Smite Club, and I think some of that's because just Josh, Serikol, and I just talk a lot, and he's, you know, very into Empire, and obviously there's some dark side influence that trickles through with that relationship sometimes. Not all him. It goes both ways, but
I pressure you into Scoundrels. You get pressured by Sarah Cruel into Empire. I see how this works. You're a little susceptible to what your friends want you to play.
I want to play them too, though.
Yeah.
But I want to play them too. It's not just like they're saying, well, you should do this. I'm like, no, that stuff's not cool, right? Like it's very much so. I do want to do those things. So we had played, and I put a lot of reps prior to, like, just all throughout the year, reps into the things I played. It's not like anything I brought I had no reps on or only had 2 weeks of practice. That's just not true. I had a whole bunch of practice with very similar list construction to what I ended up doing. Is just, okay, well, here, let's try this instead. At Smite Club, I ended up taking like Iden Grand Inquisitor, and the idea was, all right, we're gonna push this really aggressive list and see how that does against boss. Now that boss is more prevalent, and the expectation was more boss, so that was for a boss counter. And then Cassian Moff with all Empire, no rebels, just Cassian as a fake Empire in there to just kind of deal with Cassian and see how that worked out.
How did you do overall at Smite Club? I genuinely don't remember, actually.
I made it to top cut. I did pretty well. I got absolutely... This is not an excuse, but it is certainly a factor. I got 2 hours of sleep before the tournament. I just wasn't feeling well.
It's not an excuse, but it's also... That shit sucks. You know?
It does. Yeah. And I was fine throughout most of the tournament until the lunch break. And then I dropped off a cliff. And we came back, and I had to play against Nick Rader as I came back from the lunch break.
Like, shout out to Nick. One, such a nice guy. And two, really fucking good at Shatterpoint.
Yes. He really mopped the floor with me harder than I have had. I have not lost a game that hard in a really long time. So I don't know. There were so many factors going into it, but he had my number, and he just...
What do you think?
We were done in like 40 minutes.
What do you think? What was it? List matchup? Or were you getting straight up outplayed? What do you think led to the Raider crushing? The Raider wrecking. Let's call it Raider wrecking.
The Raider wrecking. He did some things like he won the roll off, and he recognized that there were some advantages to board side, and he took those. Okay. Right. He had more rebels than I did. I played Cassian Moff into him, and he played Cassian Princess Leia.
Okay.
And not a lot of people are doing that, by the way.
Was this
like
game recorded out of random curiosity? Because that seems like a really interesting matchup.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame
He also brought Bodhi
for not recording.
He had Bodhi in that list too, and K2 in that list. So there were so many really strong control pieces, and very early he got Bodhi across, like, on the table on an objective with a hunker token. And I'm like, okay, so my only way that I can deal with that now is getting Moff over there, who can't get there because of the terrain, or shooting Bodhi off of an objective where he's steadfast with a hunker token with Dark Troopers. It was just not good. I ended up taking the two other midlines on shifting with the Dark Troopers, and then they got blasted off the table by Base and Chirrut. And that kind of set the tone. Like, I just couldn't recover.
Okay. He
made really good choices.
Base and Chirrut a little bit. All right.
But I didn't. I mean, like, he made really interesting list choices, and then he just suffocated me out of the list. But it was only 40 minutes, so he did it really quickly.
What was the other secondary? Because I assume he had Rebel Commandos.
He had Bodhi and K2SO, so he had Rebel Commandos and
okay, yeah, all right. I see the so
he just locked it in. Yeah,
that's a solid list, and he went on to win Smite Club, right? He was Smite Club champion. All right,
yeah. You know, my dad always says, from watching sports, if the team that you want to win loses, then you have to follow the other team and hope that they win the championship. So, you know, I was like, woo, Nick won.
Hey, that's definitely how it was with the World Series this year. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I was like, Blue Jays knocked out the Mariners. They must suffer defeat at the hands of the Galactic Dodgers Empire.
Right.
Post this event, you and I actually talked a fair amount post this one as you were preparing, because the LVO Part 2 was your next GT. right?
Yes.
And your mindset was shifting a little bit. You I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded like you weren't confident with Riff.
I actually was. I was very confident with Riff. I think he's a great list. I played against him at least once at the Arizona Grand Tournament at Smite Club.
Yeah.
I played against him in Top Cut, and I lost that game. But it was a really close game where I took Iden into Riff, and I had Obi-2 in there, and in a moment, Obi's his dice disarm didn't do what I was hoping for it to do, and so ultimately my opponent took that game.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I still believed in the Riff list. Like, I think it's a fantastic list. I just thought that maybe I could bring something stronger.
Okay. So how did you get to the point of deciding what you were going to play at LVO? Is it one of those things that you got done with the event and you already had the idea? Because sometimes I've had events where plane ride home or party afterwards, bar afterwards, the list just starts flowing, right? When did you kind of start figuring out what you wanted to play at LVO Part 2 post Smite Club?
At Smite Club.
At Smite Club?
At Smite Club,
what point at Smite, like during Top Cut or when?
No. So I had one of my last Swiss games was into a local who played like Boss Hunter.
Okay.
And I played Iden into that. And I took that game. It was by a very narrow margin. And in that moment I said, all right, what we have here designed to beat this works, but I'm concerned it might not work enough. And Sarah Cruel was there, and he brought the exact same list. So we were twinsies with part of our list, Empire list. Yeah, so like that's why if you look at it and you say, "Oh, look,
did you wear the same shirt?" Because that would have been really adorable.
I don't think so.
Okay, you guys need to fix that next time.
But I did make sure that we were drinking the same drinks. I had a cooler in the car, and so I was like, "Here you go,
points." But same shirts next time. Yeah. Josh,
fair enough.
You guys, bro it up. We need. Was it Westland Warrior shirts or something?
The Westland Warlords, yeah. And but there's a few people in that. It's not just Josh and myself. Yeah. There's a few other Arizona Zonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were figuring it out at the event. You're kind of recognizing that you're kind of seeing, this is really good. I need to have something that counters that. And you were formulating in your brain, I think I know what I want to play into that.
Yeah, so we kind of already knew that we wanted to go with like an Iden against Delta as a counter and felt really good about it. But when you have a list that has Grand Inquisitor with no Inquisitors and OB2, you have potentially 2 landmine activations where you're just not, nobody I think sings the praises of OB2's activations when he's going to swing before he gets wounded. So like when he's rolling 6 dice, it's just not that impressive. Same for Grand Inquisitor.
I'm pretty sure I dropped a video literally today where OB2 wins the game on his activation. That was literally today, pure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so to be fair, they can possibly be landmine activations.
Yes,
they weren't for me at all throughout the tournament. And I got out of that and said, I did not have any bad activations with my primaries that could have had bad activations.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that wasn't Circle's experience, right? He did have some, but I dodged them the whole way through. And in some cases, Obi won me the game, right? There was definitely a moment where I activated Obi and Iden's engaged with somebody, and I'm like, reposition Iden over to an objective. It felt so great. That doesn't happen any other way. So yeah, there's very cool stuff it can do, but it did feel like you're walking on thin ice with that, and I didn't love that. So at the tournament after Swiss day 1, Sarah Kroll is doing his, beard rub, and we're sitting there, and he goes, "But what if we have Vader 1 there instead of Grand Inquisitor, and then we're reducing one bad activation down to 2?" And I said, but how do we do that? Because we have Elite Squad. So like that's really weird. And he said, well, if you take Guarm, which is something I'd thought about before, but not seriously. And I just had to consider it in that moment. I said, I don't think that's crazy. And he said, I don't either. So it was at Smite Club is when it started to evolve and said, how can we reduce 2 potential landmine activations down to just 1?
Okay, makes sense. So LVO's coming down the road. You have had a lot of top cuts, but not quite in the playing for first or top 4, but you've been in a lot of top cuts now. Are you getting kind of frustrated with that? I'm like, I'm better than this. I can do better than just making top cut. I deserve to be top 4 or like getting to the finals. Was there any frustration with kind of that state of things?
Not in hindsight. In the moment, of course. I
I'm
definitely
talking in hindsight. I don't want Pure now answering the question. I want Pure then answering the question. We're following your journey. So there was some frustration. You're like, God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially when you feel like you make mistakes. You can't be frustrated at variance things. You can, however, be frustrated at mistakes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I wasn't frustrated with some variants. Obviously I was, because I'm human and I think we all get upset sometimes by variance.
You're human?
You wouldn't think so after this year that I had.
Yeah. Okay, so you've done very well overall, but you're looking to push it to the next notch. You're kind of playing like vastly different lists across so far, right? You've made kind of significant changes every step of the way. There's been like a little bit, you can see the evolution, like maybe half of it carries with you, but like part of it is always changing. And your list, if you just go 2 GTs apart, it's basically totally different.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Smite Club, from Evergreen to Smite Club, completely different.
Yeah.
From Smite Club to LVO, there was a month of time in between Smite and LVO, and it wasn't that different. It had evolved a little bit, but not too much. Yeah.
So,
and it ended up reaching back into the past and pulling, Rift back out of my pocket from Evergreen.
So going into LVO, you kind of figured it out. And I remember you and I talked a little bit about like which version of the Iden Vader 1 list. Were you feeling any more confident than usual going into LVO? Was it less confident? What was your mindset?
I was doing extremely well in practice games against what I was practicing against.
Okay.
So I was confident that the lists work. It was just a matter of small optimizations. And if I tweak this will be better versus that thing. But if I do it the other way, this is better versus this other thing. And there is no right answer. It's just a matter of which one ultimately makes the cut.
Is there a better feeling than when you're playing something that's a little different than what everybody else is talking about and you're doing really well with it? And you're like, oh my God, like, do I have the thing? Is it my time? So I'm not sure I knew that you were just like, you were feeling in a really solid place. You're like, the practice is all going well. I'm doing well into what I want to do into. So were you kind of feeling like LVO's, this is mine. This is going to be the one.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
but I felt like it was going to work against what I was like that I was developing a tech piece, like a weapon against a certain meta threat, and I felt really good about that. But I didn't think I was going to, win the whole thing. I did have thoughts like it would be really cool if I did win this tournament like a few days beforehand. But but in practice, I was saying, what's the answer for Delta? And I felt like I was so close. And I had been practicing with a bunch of local practice partners, multiple versions of Delta. I practiced against more than you could, than you'd think. Boss Vader, Boss Hunter, Boss Obi. These were all things that I was practicing Iden specifically into, and I was doing very, very well with it. So I was like, I think I got it. I think I have an answer here, and nobody's doing this. So it's going to come down to a knowledge thing of, I'm familiar with anything they could be throwing at me and how likely they are to succeed, whereas they might just be a little bit less familiar with how likely their dice are to succeed into mine.
I was actually just talking about this in the MCP show that I recorded yesterday, which is not out yet, but I'll actually send you the link because I think you might end up enjoying it. But one of the things we started talking about was expertise differential and how essentially we're always trying to create an expertise differential where you know that luck can always be a factor, but if you can create an expertise differential where you understand what your opponent is playing significantly better than what they understand about what you're playing, then you're in a good spot. And so you had that. long story short, you've done, do you want to take a moment and shout out? I know you did some post LVO interviews, right?
I did.
Why don't you shout out where, if people want to dig into your LVO experience, where would they go?
Oh goodness, where would they go?
On the spot.
I know that I talked with the Sci-Fi about post, but it wasn't, I don't think it was LVO. We talked post Evergreen Thoughts with Riff, and I had post LVO talked with Rogue Support. There was an interview on Rogue Support. And if there's any others, I apologize for not remembering.
Hey, we appreciate that you are not a full-time podcaster, so that we get to bring you on to our shows. And, you're not just going to do your own, because you totally could. Mm-hmm. I would definitely listen to the Sarah Carolla and Pierce show, for the record. But, so you came out of it, you won. One question for you. Mm-hmm. At what point did you ever feel like it was going to be your event? When you got to Top Cut, where you're like, nope, this is all driving, this is the one for me? Or were you're kind of in the mindset of like, oh God, I don't know the whole way? Because you had a really crazy semifinals that was almost a tie. And so, but it was, was there any point where you kind of thought, I've got this?
Yeah, I think in the moment that I had realized I won the semifinals game was when I felt that way. I remember kind of saying, to my opponent, Evan, if I outbody you on this objective, I'll win. He said, yeah, if you think you can. And I said immediately, I can. And I pulled a card and did it. So I didn't mean to be like, to come off. Yeah.
I love it. There's some moxie there going on. You're like, this is the purest way to victory, baby.
I just knew, and there was no question in my mind that I could do it. And I kind of knew coming out of that who my opponents were on the other side and what that list construction looked like. And I thought, this looks really good for me to take this. And I definitely, I felt more emotional in that moment than I have at other events, just because I think I might have gotten close enough to, like, I'm going to be in the finals. Yeah. Oh my goodness, this hasn't happened all year long. You went from like barely
hitting Top Cut, getting knocked out in first round of Top Cut every time, right? And I think that's something that is a hard thing to differentiate, right, for someone who has never done those things, because getting to Top Cut and you're like, yes, you kind of hit that first tier. And you're like, I feel good. I'm in that tier that makes Top Cut. But you're like never getting past the first round. And then suddenly not going one step further and making, quarterfinals or making semifinals, boom, you're finals. You went from losing first round of Top Cut to being in the finals is actually a fairly big mental shift. And so, like, I imagine that wasn't easy.
No, I did so much to prepare during LVO. Like, people were like, oh, well, hey, are you going to play in the For Fun event, the side event? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to spend this time and just get away from people, because I really am an introvert. I just need some time to recharge. And I found a nice place up, a little cubby, basically away from everybody, and spent hours on that day there when they were all playing games. I spent hours out there looking at Discord, looking up the events, because when I'm immersed in an event, I feel like I can't see anything. I'll end up looking at my phone at the end of the day and see I've got 50 messages. So I just spent the time to decompress and be alone and away from people and rest. Hey. So there were a lot of factors, really.
I think that is a really good thing to shout out, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I think we all have our thing. And I'm a massive extrovert. Anyone who knows me, I'm so far on the extrovert spectrum. But going into like what was my biggest win in the War Machine days, I had to step back and like get into the zone few hours where I knew like there was time between this finals game, and because they kind of rescheduled the finals game around when me and the other person could fit it into all of the other events and stuff that we were doing. And I knew that was going to be the last game of my convention because I didn't make the other thing. And I was like, I need to win this game. I need to win this. And I like left and took a shower. I went into like the zone of like elaborate, like what was my plan? What was I going to play into them? And then grabbed just like a really select couple of people and wanted to like talk through my plan. And so I get like, even as an extrovert, I still get how sometimes you have to step back and just do what you need to do to get yourself into the mental place to kind of carry forward. But I'm curious, you end up in the finals with Donovan, who you talk to a lot, who, let's be honest, admires you. Probably you are his favorite person, even above me, which says a lot. But
I don't know. I've been playing Aiden, and he's not a huge fan of me playing Aiden.
But we were talking about
points.
We were talking about expertise differential, and Donovan's primary opponents would be me and his dad. Neither of us like Aiden. So we just don't play Aiden very often. And maybe that's to Donovan's detriment, where he just doesn't have nearly as much Aiden experience, and that worked to his disadvantage. But that's not really what I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to ask you, because when I got to play in the finals of SoCal with Sarah Cruel, I was immediately relaxed to a certain degree, where I was like, man, if I lose this to Sarah Cruel, I'm totally cool with that. This guy rocks. Yeah. Was there a degree of that where you were just like, I'm really happy that I'm playing with someone that, you know, that is like, I'm not insulted if I lose to this person? Or were you like, nope, I'm taking the head off, going for the throat. You know, there's no relaxation. We are in the finals. This is Pierre's time. What was the mindset?
Bit of both, to be honest. Look, Dork Esquire, I was happy that I saw that he had beaten you because it just, I talk with Donovan more. Yeah. Right. So it's definitely that. And I also am like, and for Donovan's sake, it has nothing to do with the fact that the last time we played, I won that game against Donovan. It just doesn't. It's just that I was saying, oh, this is cool. Donovan and I get to share this, and one of us gets to win. Yeah. And so, yes, so there's that aspect of it, that, you know, just that we were close, and I was really excited that one of us, it didn't matter. Yeah. It didn't matter. One of us gets a trophy from that.
I'm going to be honest. I was still rooting for Donovan. No disrespect to you. I do love you. I was rooting for Donovan, but for me as an audience member, there was definitely some like, both these people rock. I'm going to be so happy either way. This is so cool. Because honestly, both of you were playing kind of weird lists too. So that's, for me, as a proponent of creativity, you both brought creativity in list design. So either way, this was no classic, boring meta stuff taking. Either way, there was cool lists to talk about, right? And so for me as a podcaster, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Before our game, like, we had a lunch break between semifinals and finals, and I walked out alone to like some food trucks out front. And Sin wasn't there that day. She just was kind of down. Like, things weren't really. Anyway, so Sin walks up from the parking lot while I was out there, and I was like, Sin, come here, over here, right? And since I saw that it's you and Donovan in the finals, and I wasn't planning on coming, but I had to come support both of you, and I just kind of said, you know, well, thanks for coming. It means a lot. And she said, like, are you a hugger? I think. and I said, I am right now. But generally speaking, no, I'm not. But yeah, then like Sin gave me a hug, and I was like, I'm so excited for what's to come for the final.
So maybe that's what made the difference. Donovan didn't get a pre-tournament hug. So maybe this is all Sin. That the hug luck was there. Oh, okay. This is why we did this episode, so we could get to the bottom of the sauce. And I feel like we've learned. So, okay. You walk away with the win. Donovan takes another second place GT. You know, he now has a top 4 and 2 top 2s. But you have now won an event. How are you just feeling in general? Like post this is your 5th GT of the year. You've really put in a ton of work. Did it feel like it paid off? Like, what were you feeling just kind of like emotionally post LVO championness?
Not a lot. I don't like. I don't know. I guess in that moment I thought, I wonder if I can do this again at sci-fi coming up.
So,
but yeah,
so that's
and I
actually my
wondered
next
maybe
question.
if I changed the meta.
Yeah, I loved, and so also I'm gonna call out fucking the entire community. I was a little pissed off that I don't think that your list got the credit that it deserved post-win. Right? I don't think people got it, and I still don't think people get it. And you really did pave a way in potential, and you examined the moment where there was a little bit more boss hype than Cassian hype, and you leaned into the anti-boss, where I think more people were leaning into anti-Cassian and had misjudged the meta just slightly. And you read into it, and then maybe this comes back to your reading into what are all of the people who are showing up playing, where maybe you notice that there's a little bit more boss going on than Cassian.
I was kind of surprised that there was less Cassian than I was expecting, or at least I didn't come across any. I was extremely happy that I think I played, and we can look this up later, or if you're very quick, like 5 of the games or 6 of the games. Most of my games were against Delta, which is what I want to see. That's what I put so much practice into. Yeah. And to be completely honest with you, I've told people before, the matchup is kind of a 50-50. Both lists compare to each other very closely. It's closer than people realize. However, it's a 50-50 if you both know each other's lists inside and out.
Expertise differential, baby. Like,
yeah. Because I can tell you from my win-loss record against Boss, I have basically not lost. There are very few losses, and that's just because of, I think, how many games I put into that to know, okay, this is exactly, not exactly, but this is what I expect this attack to do into that. And sometimes my opponents were surprised when they'd throw an attack and go, oh, that didn't do what I thought. And I said, yeah, because in my mind, I was thinking you didn't have a very good chance of succeeding into that.
Yeah. Okay, so post LVO, you now have a win. You have won one of the largest conventions of the year. You're let's just say worldwide, that's probably one of the top 10 GTs. Let's just say, like, for ease. So you've got one of the top 10, definitely better than my GT win. You've got one of the top 10 GT wins of the year, but you've got another GT on the schedule. You're still motivated to go to Zion's Finest. What was the plan here? You're like, I want to go back to back. What, like, or you're just, I'm going to test something different. What was the thought process into the 6th GT?
I really wanted to win against that meta, against like Zion's Finest crew, like on their own home court.
You're hunting
I played
your
against
nemesis.
Kenny so many times.
Okay.
It definitely came to mind where I was like, oh man, I'd love to beat Kenny in Utah. That would be great.
Yeah.
For me. But it wasn't all up. It wasn't all like that. I definitely had a thought of, well, I just won a grand tournament. I wish I hadn't won this one, so that the pressure, the drive is still there to win. The need to win is there for Sci-Fi, because that fell off a little bit after I did win LVO. And so you did feel that drop a little bit. A little bit. Okay. Yeah. And I had thoughts of, do I drop Sci-Fi? I'm exhausted. I've been through so many grand tournaments. I don't know what it was after LVO for like those 2 weeks. About 4 p.m. I just felt like going to sleep every single day. I was wiped out.
It's a lot.
I don't feel like that way. I don't feel that way. I'm a night owl. I will stay up until late hours when I'm not supposed to.
No, I definitely get it. I think in my War Machine days, there was a year where I essentially did 5 big travel conventions / tournaments, and then also had like some local tournaments as stuff as well. And dude, those years are rough. They take a lot out of you. And sometimes you just need like a whole month off. So yeah. So you go to Sci-Fi. How did you do overall at Sci-Fi?
Not as well as I'd have hoped. I think I didn't technically make it into Top Cut. there were
technically
like some drops.
Make it?
Well, because I was in Top Cut, but it was because of drops.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know that I consider that the goal. I
think Pure just told every single person who only got into Top Cut because of drops that it doesn't count.
No. There was one other that also got into because of drops. And it's not true, Nick. I think it was Nick. It's not. You deserved this. Okay. I just didn't feel like that was what I wanted for me. And I think you messaged me. You were kind of following that along and you were like, dude, did you just get 11 wounds in your first game? And I was like, yeah, I think I should feel bad for my opponent. Yeah. I know he walked up to the table and he did one of these. He went, you just won LVO. And I said, well, but he was like, yeah, all right, let's get this.
So the joke that I make in that situation, if you ever play against me in person, I make the same joke every time in those sort of moments. And I say, I would apologize if I were capable of empathy. And so far everybody has laughed at it and brought some levity to the situation. So you end on a slightly disappointing note where you don't do quite as well in the last event. But when you think back overall on the year, is it something where you're proud of your overall success and you feel really good about it? You're like, I was a fucking rock star in 2025. Or were you a little bit like, man, I really wanted to like keep the momentum going a bit? How are you feeling?
Yeah. I wished that there were another 3 weeks in between LVO and Sci-Fi so that I felt like I could have brought a little bit more freshness of that inner fire to that tournament. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I brought fantastic lists and lists that I was very confident with, and counter to Cassian. I thought like I had basically a Cassian list. I took the thing, I just brought it and I made some tweaks to it to deal specifically with other Cassian lists. I played against Kenny twice, by the way, at Sci-Fi. I don't know if you knew that.
I was stalking you for sure. I'm a fan. Do you not realize that I am a Christopher fan?
Yeah. So at Sci-Fi, I played him in Swiss, and we had such a good game. It was, and he's always so nice. But yeah, we had a really good game. He took it.
That dude is entirely too charming. For the record,
it's not. I know it's not fair.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
So
yeah, But anyway, I didn't quite make it to Top Cut, and I knew, okay, well, based off this record, I won't get it. And I decided to kind of started to melt into my chair a little bit. I was like, I can relax now. It's over. The year is over. No more grand tournaments. Now I get to rest.
Hibernation.
And then
you go, you get to go into Jedi Luke Skywalker mode. You get to go back to your pure island, be an introvert, milking random Star Wars beasts and burning books.
Yeah. And then about 30 minutes later, they said, so we got a couple drops. We're not going to make it. These people will be out. Chris, you're in the Top Cut. And I went, I just dropped my ambition. It's out there now. You should have told me 30 minutes ago.
Do you think that impacted you? Do you think the ambition shift? Because this is something that we talk about in miniatures games a lot. The abilities that where you think you're about to achieve your goal. So this could be like callous rerolls, or when you can modify your opponent's attacking dice, that sort of thing, where you're thinking, oh, I got it, I'm going to take this point. And you're like, no, callous rerolls. I actually get the extra expertise. You no longer pin me. I get a dash back on the point. That you have to have a certain kind of mentality to keep playing through those moments and keep your mind in the game, because there are these, like, when you get hit with that dopamine hit, you're like, I did it. And then you're like, no, I didn't do it. And And so do you think that hurt you, where it was like, no, I'm not in? And so your mindset starts shifting, and then you've got to like switch back into like, I'm the greatest fucking ever mode.
I do think it hurt. Yeah, because and you said I mean, like, I'd say it's arrogance. You have to have like that arrogance.
You have to have some ego.
Think that you're better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you do. And hopefully the right amount.
Yeah, you want to find that happy medium, not the ego where you're like, I have to cheat because I deserve this.
Yeah.
You got to be right in that middle zone where you're like, I am good enough to fucking do this.
Exactly.
You have to hit that sweet spot.
Yeah, you have to have the arrogance to believe that you can win it.
Yeah.
And that you are going to win
you're
it.
Like, I am better than these other people, right? And you're like, these are all amazing people. You have to have a degree of ego that says, I can be better than them, or I am better than them. And that's the reality. You got to kind of be in that mental place.
Yeah, that room was terrifying, by the way. There's like 48 players and 10 of them there were like 10 GT titles in that room. Like
you were one of those GT titles, brother.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that hurt a little bit because the numbers told me that I didn't quite make it. So I was like, I dropped it. I dropped that arrogance that, you know, I'm going to win this attitude.
Yeah.
And then I hear Kenny from across the room go, dag nabbit, you know, and he's like, and I'm like, did I just match up against Kenny? I just heard him scream from across the room. And he's like, Chris. I'm like, oh, it is me. So he's like, it's us. We get to play again. And I played a list that I didn't think could beat him, but I was going to find out. But I didn't think it could. So if I had that arrogance, I think I would have played my other list, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a good shout. That's part of that's the kind of stuff I wanted to hit in this, the emotional side of doing a bunch of tournaments. But overall, you did fantastic. And so big credit to you. Obviously, I believe that you are a wonderful person and a wonderful player and a wonderful opponent. And I was really excited about just digging into this adventure of doing 6 GTs and where your mindset was and how you picked lists. Honestly, I could probably talk to you for another few hours on this topic and dig on and each one of these events more. I would totally do it, but I feel like I should let you sleep at a certain point. But do you have any kind of closing thoughts on how that year went and how it's going to impact 2026 for you, either from list building, preparation standpoint? You're like, this stuff worked, this stuff didn't, both from you're like, I'm still going to research who's at an event and I'm going to go through their stuff. Like, that's a thing I'm just going to keep doing, or I didn't feel that was worth it. Like, what are your thoughts kind of closing things out and preparing for 2026?
Researching is a part of me that's never going to go away. I will always look up my opponents. I will always look at what you're doing and try to get into your mind for how I think. The
CIA analyst of Shatterpoint players.
That's right. So some people have heard me say before, I don't do list chicken. I'm just going to play what I want to play, and I'm going to let you do both halves of list chicken. That's true to an extent. If I think that it is truly a coin flip and you're a player that's going to choose one thing or the other thing based off of how you feel, you know, then sure, I will just choose something I feel like I want to do. But if I think I know what you're going to do, that changes my decisions. So I will always study my opponents. So I do get some of that Thrawn. I've got some of that Thrawn, I guess, in me. I will always study you and figure out how to break you down before you know that we've ever, you know, had a mental combat before. But additionally, when you're trying something new, I think it's important to note that even if you're the best players in the world, you have to understand that you won't completely comprehend a list from just a handful of games. It's just not possible. You're not good enough. It doesn't matter how good you are. Even if you have experience with the pieces, you can't put them together and say, well, I know how the pieces work well enough that I'm a good enough player that I'll know how this interacts wholly with another thing. That's just not true. So sometimes you have to accept that when you're practicing something new, you're first going to see a dip. You're going to do worse before you do better. And you got to get through that. You know, once you've mastered it, then you can see how it really shines.
I totally agree. So I'm excited to see how you do in 2026. I probably not 6 GTs, or are you doing 6 GTs again?
Goodness, no, not if they're that close together.
You did awesome, man. And I'm so happy that we got to kind of talk about the whole journey, because it is honestly super interesting. And I feel like we got to some very interesting insights along the way.
It's been fun.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, hopefully, do you have something before Adepticon? or is it Adepticon your next adventure?
Adepticon's the next grand tournament. There are probably other local things that I'll be up to. I'm the lists stuff has already begun.
Yeah.
The boys are going to start regathering after the holidays in like a week, and it will begin. So we're all going to begin our Dathomirian training. And
excellent. So we got to close things out. As much as I want to talk to you about this stuff for just literally hours on end because you're wonderful, we got to close it out, which means we got to decide. Bane, rarely reserved, commonly reserved. And there's an argument either way, right? Because to a certain extent, he is commonly reserved. He created the rule of two. He wanted the whole Sith to be more reserved. He also got in front of the whole Council of Sith and was like, I'm Darth Bane, motherfuckers. And you can't do shit about it. So, pure LVO champion, how reserved is Bane?
It's so tough. I put some thought into this, and because as I've been reading the books, I'm like, he's so much like Darth Sidious, where he has, like, in the books, puts through all this planning for how he's going to build this secret empire. And he told his apprentice, the Sith should be cunning. They shouldn't just be about charging in. There's no honor in death. You need to be smart. You can't just be strong. You need both. So he's so hard to pin down. However, this man basically covered himself in like lightsaber proof armor and then runs in swinging without any regard for defense. I think this man is rarely reserved, and he's going to cut you down if he thinks he can.
So is he like the bipolar of reserved, where he has both sides, where there's times where he's fucking all in both directions?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. Pure, thank you so much for recording with me. And we're going to close out there with Darth Bane is the bipolar of reservation. Later, nerds.